working on this Massey Ferguson again. We're going to change out these other two injectors. Once we realized the injector here was the problem, the manual recommends to go ahead and switch out the other two if they're still original, which they are. So we're going to do that. The basic tools you're going to need. So obviously our two new injectors, and then I've got my wrenches out. So you're going to most likely need a 5/8 for the injectors, 1/2 inch. There's a couple things on there for that. The 7/16 is going to be for the fuel return lines and the tops of the nuts are going for the top of the fuel return line. Crescent wrenches are always good to have on hand. 1/2 inch nut driver. I have a 1/2 inch socket on there, and then a torque wrench to torque everything back down at the end. You're also going to want to have some parts cleaner just to kind of clean up, make sure you're not getting debris down into those injector holes. A little bit of anti-seize. I like the nickel stuff. I think it works really well, and it doesn't interact with the metal as much. And then new compression washers. You want to make sure you change those every time if you pull an injector out, because you're actually going to try and crush that when it goes down in to make a nice tight seal. So we'll get started with it and go from there. Okay, so I've already gotten this all loosened up. Get that out of there. There's a little bit of stuff there, so we're going to need to definitely clean that up some. So this is a good example of the washer didn't come out with the injector. So I'll show you that down and in there. So you can see down in there that washer is actually down in there still. So the way to get that out is just use a flathead screwdriver and come down in, little tap. There we go. And that pulls that up and out. So just make sure you get the old one of those out of there for sure, because you'll need to put the new one down in there to try and compress it. Next one. Up and out, same thing. The injector came out without the washer. Gentle tap. And let that pull up and out. And the last one, which is our new injector. And that one left stayed in there as well. Just going to drop these down in. Making sure they lay flat. So I'm just putting a little bit of anti-seize on here so that if we need to pull them out at some point in the future, or somebody else needs to pull them out at some point in the future, they should be a little bit easier to get free. So, one back down and in. So have the injector nuts. Just gently hand tightening. So if you watched my previous video on these, there was a little bit of debate on what the torque specs should be on these. I actually went and asked my local Massey dealer, and they looked it up, and they said it should be between 12 and 14 foot-pounds for these nuts that hold down the injectors. So that's definitely what we're going to do today. So with the torque wrench, if you come all the way back, you see where that's, so if you get the 0 to the 10, that would be 10 foot-pounds. We're going to go to 14th. We're going to go to the 4, get it in line just above the 10, tighten this down in the back. You want to make sure you're alternating back and forth here, because you want to make sure it goes in and sits nice and flush against that compression washer, that brass washer that's going to get crushed. There's 14 there, and 14 there. Checking them both again one last time. Good. So now we can tighten these down. Checking 5/8 is what the standard is. The last one I have down there is a different size. That's because there was a repair done by the previous owner, and they changed out the line or replaced the line that was coming in, and they used a 17 millimeter nut when they changed it. So now I've always got 2. Okay, so then this is going to just come onto here. Grab the nuts for that. This is a 7/16 also. Okay, so we have the main lines that come into each injector that are nice and snug down, tight. Then the return lines for any extra fuel that comes back down in. So we will get the fuel tank put back on and start it up, see how it goes. Okay, so I think I mentioned it last time, but to get this line to come across in here to this little primer pump, you need to take off the air hose. So just make sure you do that, otherwise it's going to get caught underneath there, make it a lot harder to take the tank off and put it back on again. So okay, so next we're going to reinstall the fuel bowl. So there's a little washer or screen with a washer on it that goes up into there. Okay, clips that in. And they're just going to tighten up this screw here. That's just going to compress the bowl up into the little rubber washer that's in there. Okay. Got that started. So if you have a second person, it definitely helps. So you can get them to go ahead and pump the pump on the other side. It's just going to push fluid through the system. So go ahead and pump it. Again.
Okay.
Again. Keep going. Keep going. A little bit more. A couple more. Okay, good. All right, so that is again just letting air out of the system. So it's just pumping that down as you're bleeding the air off from here to make sure you get all the air out of your lines. Okay, so I got that all back together. Everything's tightened up. Hook back up the battery. Alright, so that starts up pretty good. So we'll drive for a bit, see how it does. A couple things I do think I need. We're getting a small leak there from the bowl. So we're going to need to get that gasket changed. And then obviously, we've already talked about changing out the gasket for this. It does look like it's putting out a little bit less smoke, which is a good thing.